champions. Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Nemesis Gaming League for a special edition of the Season 13 drafts. We have a Titan League expansion draft. Yep, we're going back to 16 teams. It's getting crazy. We had a huge influx of players following our last week's drafts, and we're coming up on opening day. We're bringing back 16 teams in Titan League, so it's gonna be a great time here. I'm happy to be back in the booth, joined by some lovely fellas. I'll go around to introduce them here. We got the one and only Mr. Gallium making his return for season 13. Gallium, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing amazing. And, I like the Seattle Kraken. This expansion draft is going to be really awesome. I can't wait. This is the first time this has ever happened, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Oh my
this is
goodness. I'm so excited.
the very first time. Yeah, we haven't done something like this after the main drafts where we're adding expansion teams, but that just goes to show you how many players signed up following the drafts. It was pretty crazy, pretty unprecedented. So it's the first time we're doing it, but happy to bring back 16 teams again. So should be a fun one. Also, Mr. Chunk Light Chunk, we got a big draft tonight. How you feeling about the Titan League heading back to 16 teams?
I'm jealous. I want Navis to go back to 16 teams
Yeah.
just so we don't have two bye weeks, but it is good for a competition to have more teams. A lot more good players get spread around, so you don't have like super teams necessarily. So I'm excited to see the competition get tighter here in the Titan League.
Yeah, no, it should be a good one. Getting back to the 16 teams. Last but not least, we got Mr. Ventus back in the booth, resident Titan expert here of the day. I'm sure excited to see 16 teams back in Titan League.
Yeah, I'm excited to see some more competition. Now I actually won't have a bye week next week. I was like, ooh, I don't actually have to play next week. Now I do. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually super excited. I think there's still a lot of good players on the board still. A lot of lower sals who just didn't really get their chance, get a shot. With so many like high sals, you kind of have to balance it out with low sal players. So like the bare minimum players were getting taken. But I'm excited for all these players. I know there's some sneaky good players still available, and I mean, there's a couple really high sal players that I think the 1 and 2 picks kind of luck into here to begin the draft.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. As you guys can see on the board here is the full draft for tonight. So rounds 1 through 4, essentially, you can see the 4 expansion teams in Titans. So Bananas, Krakens, Phoenix, and Diversion all coming back here for season 13. And yeah, that draft order is a snake draft order, and it was randomized. So Bananas gonna be coming up with the first overall pick here, and then we'll kind of work our way down from there. And I guess without any further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and get the Bananas on the clock, and just wonder at who they might select with their first pick here of the draft.
You
Mm.
know, I'm not really sure, but there's one player that I think they should pick, and I might have typed it out in the chat, but I think I would put every single dollar I owned, and yep, there it is, on Rockers getting picked #1 overall. The only concern with him is he has been known to request trades to get on specific teams. So as a GM, I'm a little worried about that. But I mean, he's just such a great player. I'm willing to take that risk and hopefully build something around him to make a good team.
Gallium, what do you know about Mr. Rocky Ears here? You like this? You like this pick?
I was in Rockier's org when he joined Nemesis. He's a very nice guy. And he is obviously insane at the game. I will say, like he does request trades to teams that he wants to play with. But I think as long as like you're a good GM and a nice GM, I think he'll want to stay, right? Because I feel like he's a good enough guy to want to win a championship. So let's hope Shadow isn't too mean to him. I'm keeping my eye on you, Shadow.
Yeah, eyes out here. We got to watch out for him as he is going to go #1 overall. Expected here with the expansion being the very top of the board there, and the accolades we've seen from Rocky Years. In the past, champion for season 11, Finals MVP, two-time All Star, runner-up last season. This guy's been all over the place, so a no-brainer here when you see him sign up and get involved in this expansion draft. And then next off the board, the Krakens are going to go ahead and select Bloodless with their first selection here. So another high MMR player off the board, Chunk. Kind of someone that we expected, with this expansion draft to kind of see these, go really for these high MMRs first.
Especially with the bulk of players being in that lower boundary, you really gotta. I'd say for all four of these teams, you gotta pick a man to lead here from the higher MMRs available. You need someone to really set the pace for your team, and I think if you can't get someone you like here, maybe you can trade. I know like a lot of teams are scrimming right now, getting used to stuff. This would probably be the time to maybe find someone if you can't in this draft, but you really would like to find someone in this draft.
Yeah, no, the pretty much trying to strike gold here, I would say. I mean, that does happen a lot of times in the draft where you're trying to, just trying to hit, hit something, kind of fire some darts, on the board and, kind of see what sticks here. It's a drafting strategy. I mean, sometimes you don't do, full research and these teams didn't have, the furthest, you know, or the most time to research as an expansion team's kind of just getting added here, very recently. So we'll see what they can work up here. See if they message some people and see what they're going to come up with. As next off the board, the Phoenix are going to go ahead and select Luigi with their pick 1881 off the board there. So gonna go ahead and skip Oatmeal Gobbler 81, the last 2K on the board, and move down to select Luigi there.
Unfortunately, Oatmeal Gobbler not able to make playoffs. I'm pretty sure it's the only reason he's not off the board as the only 2K player remaining. I do like Luigi. He played, I believe, at Florida State for CRL. Is a pretty good team. I ran into him a good amount. He's a very solid player. He doesn't make many mistakes, and I mean overall, he's kind of what you want as a backbone player to kick your team off. So. Oh, I might, stand corrected. Oatmeal Gobbler looks like he is gonna get picked number 4. I'm not sure if Diversion knows or if they just don't care about the the consequence of picking him.
Hey, to be honest, if it's me there, I'm an expansion team, and that 2K sitting on the board, even if he can't make the end of the season, he might be able to help us do some good things during the season, and we can figure it out later on if we need to. And you never know, maybe some availability might open up as time goes on. So, when I see a top MMR player, there's not a lot of them left on the top of the board. My eyes would kind of light up too. I'm not gonna lie. So, I don't mind that selection there.
Yeah, I really like it personally. I mean, as you mentioned, not making playoffs isn't actually the end of the world because I think making the playoffs is the goal for most GMs. But if you're looking to tank, probably not the best player to pick up. I really do like the middle of the pack in terms of these Titan FAs. I think building a team with like a high MMR player isn't really going to be the move necessarily because there's a lot of really good mid to low players in Titan. Like a player I'm looking at in particular, obviously you have Spuff. He's been absolutely goaded in Rival past couple of seasons. Him and Cottony are good, and Juicy Leaf, all very good picks. And I mean, I think if you get the right 3 people, no matter how low they are, I mean, you can make a run. It's happened before, and I think Titan is littered with a lot of teams going super high, and then like the second and third aren't the highest, so it could be an advantage.
Yeah, no, a lot of teams confined, those teams from the original drafts really confined to those MMR caps. Taking a really high MMR player, like you mentioned, kind of forces you to take those, lower MMR players. And, maybe these teams can build something, kind of in that middle range, as Cottony is going to go off the board to Diversion there. And then Phoenix is coming back with their next pick, and they're going to go ahead and select Darko with their selection. So most of these teams starting out getting their first couple of picks here. Chunk, any thoughts on how these first 2 teams are kind of shaking out here with Diversion and Phoenix both getting their second player now?
I love the Cottony pick in person just because I've seen him grow as a. I believe the first time I saw him play, one of my friends got farmed by him in like Chally League, but he has come all the way to Titan, and I believe he has done well on the way up. And I think that he can pair well. I haven't seen him play in person, but I know he's gotten way better. And Darko, I'm not as familiar with, but like you said, with these balanced teams, I feel like having three equal players may be more beneficial than having some of these low sal players.
Yeah, no, it'll definitely be interesting. And yeah, you mentioned Cotney. I've played against him before. Back in the day, he's eliminated me in the playoffs before, way back in the day in Challenger League. Um, one of my favorite seasons in Challenger League, and he had to go out there and ruin it. So what the heck? But you still love to see him around here even after all those times since way back in season 7. Now we're in season 13. Obviously he's moved up, way up in the leagues there, heading over to Diversion. So love to see him sticking around there. Him and Luigi going to be the start on that team there. Or excuse me, him and Oatmeal Gobbler, looking at the wrong team. But him and Oatmeal Gobbler there going to be the start for that team for Diversion. See what they can do for sure. As the Krakens are going to come through and make their second selection, they're going to go ahead and select Secure 1808 with their selection. So their second one off of the board, and putting the bananas on the clock to figure out who they're going to pair with Rocky Eris.
Now, let me tell you something about these two picks. They are fantastic picks by both of the GMs. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but Darko is extremely mechanical. I mean, he might be one of the most mechanical players, especially at his salary that I've seen. I've played against him multiple times in a couple other leagues. He's a super good player to pair with Luigi, and then Secure pairing with Bloodless. Bloodless is, I mean, a really good player. I think that Secure will be able to play really well with Bloodless, and I think that they will be able to create kind of the 1-2 that might rival some of these other teams. I mean, they might be better than some of these teams that I see. I mean, I don't want to name any names to talk about some teams that I don't like,
Say it.
but
Say it.
I think that they could be better than like Blizzard with Zinvez and Cynthia, or Reapers, or Gravity with Dimitri and Deca. I mean, I'm telling you, these teams are very like they're good, but I just think that this team has the good potential to be really good.
Hey, yeah, I mean, fair enough. I mean, that's the thing that kind of intrigues me the most about this. I'm so curious to see how these teams are going to compete, because I think a lot of the original talk here was that these teams, they're probably not going to be as good as some of these other teams, and I don't necessarily believe that to be true. I feel like there's a lot of potential, and when you do these drafts, before the season even starts, there's a lot of stuff that's still to be determined with the season, and a lot of unknowns with these players and how good they are. So I really feel that you know anything can happen once you get to the regular season. You find some chemistry, and you can set yourself up for success, as the Bananas are trying to do just that here, as they are going ahead with back-to-back selections here. Gonna select Light and Spuff, two solid rival league players from last season,
Wow.
making the move up to Titan.
That is an insane squad, dude. The bananas are gonna be nuts. Rockiers, Light, and Spuff. That's a good team. But piggybacking off of what you said about the expansion draft, obviously we don't know how these teams are gonna fare against some of the other teams. I think it's an interesting concept that we have this draft. But honestly, there's a lot of players that I don't know. And I think that's a good thing for some of these GMs in the expansion draft. I'm sure some of you guys like know who these guys are, but I'm not too familiar. And I think most or some of these guys joined the league just this season. So I think it's a good, you could get a hidden gem, right? You could get the next Rock Years, in kind of like the mid MMR placeholder. So GMs do have a little bit to work with, and I think it's good as well as a GM because you don't really have high expectations, because you don't know what the expansion draft's gonna bring. But oh yes, Kraken are selecting Juicy Leaf. I love that pick.
Yeah, I also got to chime in because I love Juicy Leaf as well. One of the players, couple seasons back, helped a rival get to the grand finals a few seasons ago. Been around the top of rival slash Titan for a couple seasons now, and yeah, heading over to the Kraken there. with their selection. So they've kind of rounded out their roster, and we're kind of moving on to like the I guess the final couple of picks here. We're on the second half here. Chunk, I do want to throw it to you quick before we continue on. Is there anyone on the board that you're looking at like, hey, I really want to I want to see that guy go off, or I'm surprised this person hasn't gone off the board yet?
There's a couple of these rival players that got moved up, and I know T Jazzer, the Jazzler, was on a very successful team. I believe he can be like a very good sub for all these teams going into the final round. But I know Demas is on the board. Jtron, I believe, was also rival last season, and then Bullet, I believe, was rival last season. A lot of rival players that moved up. So maybe this competition could help them and get more competitive, and they could progress really fast.
Yeah,
Fair
no,
enough.
I agree completely. I think that, with the, with the boundary, the minimum boundary moving down just a little bit here this season, I think that, it really can bring these people that were top rival, bring them up and, maybe improve their skills into the Titan League. You're just getting some of those reps in these Titan League matches, a little faster of play style, can definitely help them out here for sure. And we'll see how they go, as now we're closing out the start of the 3-man rosters here, as we see Phoenix. They're going to go ahead and select Freeholey, who was on Pinnacle last season, so a Titan or returning Titan player. He's mostly in the sub spot, but a solid pickup there, as Diversion is going to make their final selections here. They're going to go ahead and select Sean K at the bottom, who I feel like this might be a trade bait battle. The Deviation Org and their love of trying to get trade picks, but that's the lowest player that was available there, 1751. So they're going to go ahead and pick him up, and then also going to come through and select Demas right behind.
Oh my goodness, they are. Yeah, that's one strategy. I mean, it seems to work for them pretty well. So, hats off to that org. But I'm surprised personally that Dreamix or Demas haven't gone off the board quite yet. I think they're very good players, especially for their Sal. And I know Dreamix played a couple seasons back, and he was really good, especially for a 1782. I think he's a very good option, to be completely honest. And Jtron has improved so much. I mean, he used to be in Chally, if I'm not mistaken, and now he's in Titan. So, I mean, he's made the jump, and I think he plays a lot of collegiate Rocket League or something of that sort. So he's constantly playing the game, and I think he'd be a good pick, because he can play the game as like maybe a sub or a third man who can switch from third to sub.
Yeah, I think he may have been. I know he was Shelly for sure. I think he may have been prospect at one point. To be honest with you, Jtron. No, don't want to disrespect Jtron if I'm wrong, but it just goes to show the amount of improvement, from Chally all the way up to Titan. So yeah, he's still on the board there. We'll see if he's gonna head off anywhere with the last couple picks coming through. As yeah, Sean K and Demas heading to Diversion, and then NK is going off the board here for Phoenix with their final pick. Now kind of rounding out their roster here, and now we're down to the final two picks here of the expansion draft.
Yeah, I think NK is pretty solid. I've run into him a lot in like 1700 threes, which, his peak is only 1752, but if you look at the top 100 leaderboard for threes, it's like 1820 or something for top 100, and he's sitting around like 1712 in threes. So he's a very good threes player. I mean, when you're that rank in threes, usually you can get higher ranked in twos. So maybe kind of getting a bit of a snag at 1752 value. I'm expecting him to probably jump up the sheets a little bit in the future, but I'm surprised that even though I don't really know who Sam is, which is surprising because I feel like I know a lot of Titan League players. I'm surprised the team hasn't kind of just like ripped at him and see what he can do, because he's at least 1800. You might as well see you kind of have unlimited MMR in the expansion draft, because you're not going to be able to max out your cap. So I would just take a flyer on Sam and just see what he can do, to be honest.
Ventus, do you know
Yeah.
who Ariba is? Are you familiar with him?
That might be the one other name I don't know.
Yeah, because that's another player who I'm like, it could be a hidden gem. So, if you're looking for a player to just roll the dice with, if you like gambling, there you go.
Let's go
Hey,
gambling.
speaking of right there, the Kraken's gonna go ahead and select him off the board. Ariba is heading over that way. So hey, Mr. Muley's he's rolling the dice over there.
Like it.
He could be
It's
like the best player. We don't know this
I
yet.
mean, who
But
knows? Who knows?
I mean, Mealy knows who he is, so
Okay.
I don't know where he knows him from, but he's probably really good at the video game. And even if people don't get drafted, um, Titan FAs are in pretty high demand. I would say honestly, they're the most in demand FAs because a lot of Titan players have like other things coming up, or some of them just don't play in Nemesis. So like these FAs, they're gonna be on a team. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. And yeah, either way, like you mentioned, yeah, subs are, are needed, especially at the Titan level. I feel like they're busy a lot of the time, but yeah, it looks like we pretty much got almost all the rosters rounded out here, and now we're ending up the Bananas gonna make their last selection. Still a few more people left on the board, but kind of the main idea of this draft was to get the this excess of players to actually get to participate in Nemesis this season instead of being held in free agency for most of the season. So I mean, at least on the board here, there'll be 16 more players that would have otherwise just been sitting free agent. So I think all in all, a solid showing here. As the last pick is going to come out here, Bananas are going to take that little bit of the flyer, like you said there. Going to go ahead and select Sam with their last pick, and close out the expansion draft there. So that's it. Like you mentioned, it's probably gonna be a shorter stream, but I do want to go around here now that we kind of got this done here. What do you guys like about these expansion teams? Maybe how they compare to some of the other teams that are in place now that we've kind of concluded things. And one more reminder before we do talk about that. If you didn't get drafted again here, unfortunately, or I guess maybe for the first time, just keep your eyes up in the Discord. Like you mentioned, teams are always going to be changing rosters and looking for other players that are active. That's something that I know on my teams I'm always looking for is active players. So I highly recommend just staying active in the Discord, in the streams, keeping up to date with everything. But yeah, let's go down the board here, Gallium. What do you make of these new expansion teams, and maybe how they compare to the rest of the Titan League so far?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that bananas team is disgusting. I think they might be top five. I know that's a little bit of a stretch, but I really do think that team is special. I think they have a lot of veteran talent in Nemesis. So these players know how to play threes. They know how to do it at a high level. So I think they're gonna be pretty good. And I have to say, I thought that all the GMs did very well in this draft. I mean, it was kind of hard to mess up some of the picks, but like I feel like they paired the players up with the players that needed to be paired up together. Like I really liked the Kraken draft in particular. I like the Juicy Leaf pick as the third man, and Bloodless obviously is ridiculous. So and we have the little mystery man Ariba. Who knows if he's going to be the sub or starting, but Phoenix and uh, Distortion, or is that dissolved? I'm losing my mind. It is
Diversion.
diversion. That one. That D. I can. Is
There's a lot of them.
distortion the org or like?
That's the
No,
rival
it's
team.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Deviation is
There's
the
too
org.
many. Okay, there's too many D words in that. So yeah, I really overall I think every GM did a good job. I just think those two teams in particular have the best teams in my opinion.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Chunk, what do you make of this expansion draft and maybe how it compares so far?
So I think Bananas benefited really from the snake draft format where they got to pick two players in a row on Spuff and Light. I think that could that could benefit them, but I like how Bananas and Krakens, like Gallium said, but I also like the diversion, right? You can start out with Oatmeal Gobbler, right? Get a couple wins, right? set up your team in a good spot and then maybe change around how your team looks going into like later in the season. So I believe they'll have a good season just based off how much success they can get out of Oatmeal Gobbler. And then Phoenix, a lot of players that I'm not familiar with besides for Holy, and I think that they'll also have a good time here, but the 200 extra cap that we'll see from a bunch of these teams, I'd like to see how they play around that.
Yeah, no, it will be interesting to see how, like you said, how it progresses throughout the season. Obviously, there'll be some free agents that'll come by throughout the season, and I'm sure these expansion teams are going to be chomping at the bit if they find some high Titan players that come through, and that can completely change things around. I mean, when those players come through later on, so. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if these teams are looking out for them. Ventus, what are you looking at here now that we've concluded the expansion draft?
I might not be as high on the diversion draft as you guys were. I think that Meat Gobbler is, or Meal Gobbler, sorry, is like, he's pretty good. He's probably a 2K owner, but the fact he can't play in playoffs, you have to throw together a whole new team if you're planning to sub him out halfway through if another free agent comes through, and you're not even guaranteed to get that Titan free agent, or like that player that will get claimed off waivers is what I should say. I think that you guys are undervaluing Phoenix's a little bit. I guess that's maybe more so because I know all these players, in Luigi and Darko especially. Luigi, I think, is a very good pick. Probably where I change the tier of players is I would probably take him over Oatmeal. Um, and I mean, when you just luck into Rock Years at the number one pick, usually that team's going to be good. Overall, I honestly, like, these four teams could still take a lot of the games off of like current teams as well. I like, there were a couple teams in Titan that are like, these guys had a bit of a lackluster draft, and compared to like these four teams compared to them, I think these four teams win. So I think that it'll just create more competition. Worst case scenario, if your team doesn't work out, especially one of the expansion draft teams, you can just trade one of these players. I know Rockiers will probably go for like 2 or 3 first round picks if you really gauge the market and set your organization up for the future if you really wanted to. Same thing with Bloodless. I'm sure he'd go for a hefty penny. So it just kind of nets positive for everybody. If you don't end up being able to retain those players or they ask to get traded, then you can just reap some benefits from them anyways.
Yeah, that's a fair way to look at it too. And then something else to add on to it. Even if the season doesn't go your way, you can still possibly get a higher end draft pick into next season as well with these teams. But it is definitely good, in my opinion. I think in most people's opinion, to bring back 16 teams in Titan League. Really get that ideal format, and hopefully, with the growth that we saw this season, hopefully next season we can bump up that Titan minimum even higher. Try to hit 1,800 plus for the Titan League minimum, and then bring the rival top up a little bit. So hopefully we can continue to see that grow. But it is good to bring it back. I'm really excited, and yeah, it's gonna be a fun season for sure. I'm excited to see how Titan League is gonna shake out. We expanded it twice now. It was 8 teams last season. Now it's 16. So a lot of people competing in Titan League. Should be a fun time. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us tonight here. We appreciate everyone tuning in for a little short special edition stream here of Nemesis action. But what we are going to be back, not tonight, but on a Monday night for opening day. So make sure that you guys are sticking around, following the channel if you haven't already. It's going to be a very fun and exciting season. Reminder, if you're these teams, start scheduling your matches, get them in the recorder. Make sure to schedule for those stream times, 8:45, 9:30, so you can select your match to be on stream. So make sure you get those matches recorded, get them scheduled, follow the channel. We will be back Monday night, opening day for season 13. It's going to be a good one. So once again, thank you all very much for watching, and we will talk to you guys later.